Let's follow up on this terrible news about Qantas today, and I'm joined by Labor Senator Tony Sheldon. Thanks for joining us, Tony. You've spent a long while in the transport industry, obviously formerly with the Transport Workers Union. This is going to toss 6,000 people out of work.
Yeah, it's a really sad day, Chris, and you're right. It's 30 years, and I know many of those Qantas workers, and I've met many of their families over the years, and it's a very sad day. I think if we look at the fact that this is a close down of the aviation industry and the market by the government, it was an intended one because we had to deal with the COVID crisis, but nevertheless, it's still a horrific time, and we're still waiting for a national aviation plan, so that's also very important that the government needs to step up and do.
Look, it's unsurprising, as terrible as it is. We all know that the airline industry has just been completely obliterated, of course, by these understandable government decisions worldwide. Are these numbers as high as you would have expected, or could we face further losses in coming months?
Look, I think what it does come back to is that we could be facing further losses unless the government steps in with a national aviation plan. We've seen three major events. We saw the Virgin going into administration. We saw the Donata workers that were left behind, over 5,500 hard-working Australians. Literally where people are delivering the meal in a plane, getting paid JobKeeper, and those making the meal aren't. And now we've seen 6,000 jobs disappear in Qantas at the moment. But what I'm also, really appeal to Alan Joyce and Qantas, wait until you see whether the government is prepared to turn around and make a aviation plan that can deal with the whole aviation industry, including Qantas.
It seems that what's driven Qantas's thinking at this moment is quite understandable, and that is that while we can hope and plan towards opening up domestic aviation again as quickly as possible, there's just no prospect in the near term of international aviation returning to anything like normal.
Look, I think there's clearly a case regards international about how we actually deal with deal with this industry. So we're really going to have, over a period of time, not just including aviation here, but it'll be two steps forward and sometimes a full step or half a step back, as we've seen what's recently occurred in Victoria and the effects that has on industry opening up. Aviation's a very sensitive industry because you have skilled workers. You need to have them there. You need to have them federal police and ASIO checked to get security passes. That takes many weeks. And with 10,000 or 1,000 or people applying for skill and approval recognition, that means we could have a real shortage and not be able to make that opportunity when the economy can open up further. And opening up further might be for a window in some places, and the window might be longer in other parts of the country than it is certainly internationally. But it's a really unsettling time, and it's quite disturbing that the decision's been made so quickly. But it's disturbing in the sense that even Alan Joyce rightly has called for the government to have a plan regards, whether it's called Aviation Keeper, because they haven't got a full plan that after September. And September we hit a cliff.
Yeah, you talk about JobKeeper payments finishing in September, although we'll know next month when the government reveals changes to that, just how it might be extended in some areas. But this must be a bit of a precursor, mustn't it? But because there will be other industries linked to aviation, obviously tourism, hotels, who are currently being sustained by JobKeeper, where people are kept on the books through JobKeeper. We're going to have to brace ourselves for massive job losses in those sectors, aren't we?
Well, Chris, I think what's happened today, and that is it is Alan Joyce and the Qantas group, their executives have made a decision that will have a flow-on effect across the economy, and it's a signal to business. And this is why it was really important that the government has a very clear aviation policy, not only what they're doing in July, but we've had three significant events. This has been the third one in aviation. We know it's a critical industry to feed, as you say, tourism, but also business, education, social contact across the country. It really is the arteries of our economy. It's a bit like saying in a city shutting down bus services and rail services and not being able to drive cars. This is an artery that actually provides substantial economic benefit to the country.
But the best thing, Tony Sheldon,
yes,
just on that point, the best thing that could happen for aviation and for Qantas and indeed for the broader economy is to open up our state borders, encourage Australians to travel for work and leisure around this country, keeping our international borders quarantined. But just at the moment, we're going in the opposite direction. We've got people getting very strident about their hard state borders. We've even got people warning about not having Melburnians come up to New South Wales at the moment.
Oh, Chris, look, I think you're really you're hitting the nail on the head about the urgency to get those borders open. And of course, we've got medical advices telling various state leaders about what they should be doing, which is in the health interests, and those risk assessments have been done both on a national and a state level. Obviously, we're taking those into account, but it's really important that we do get those borders open as soon as we can. But I also think that we have to deal with some of the realities, and is that we're going to have flows, as the Prime Minister's rightly said, and to his credit, as well as opposition leaders and various state premiers, that this is going to be 2 steps forward, 1 step back across these industries. We need not to knee-jerk responses. We need to have a forward-thinking plan about how we deal with those 2 steps forward, half a step back, because of there'll be, and there's likely to be, outbreaks until we get, as the experts are telling us, antidote to deal with this crisis.
Tony, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Labor Senator Tony Sheldon there.